I've always wanted to have a go at a Bob Ross type scene. One of the mountain ones, the alpine sort of region, the snow-capped. But I wanted to make sure I really did it respect and paid a fellow artist the greatest respect possible. So that was my challenge that I thought I would throw myself into today. So I thought we'd come outside where we can really get a bit of inspiration, sort of that mountain inspiration. It's nothing like seeing the awe of a beautiful mountain. So let's see how I go. Always find mountain scenes to be quite a challenge, because the difference from being in front of the mountain and working from a reference photo are two completely different things. We really have trouble even on a good size Mac screen or a good size digital screen. You don't quite get the grandeur, you don't quite get just that sheer majestic height and awe-inspiring size. So that's one thing that with this one I was trying to really translate as well, to get that scale. So there's plenty of ultra blue. That's the one thing that mountain scenes, they are very atmospheric strong. They're very determined, and we have to make sure we use, well, I love to use plenty of French ultramarine blue. So there we have the 3 steps in. It's always good, or in this case, it's that classic backdrop, mid-distance, and then foreground. So I'm just employing the little rubbing off technique just to get an idea where I'm going to land some of those bits of land mass or snow. So I do love to make sure I'm using the big brush, getting back often as possible as well. That is so important. Even though it looks like my hand's getting a little close to the silver area. So it's funny, as a painter, personally, we do actually, or most painters, we slowly develop some bad habits. And actually that's why it's been a great exercise doing the YouTube videos, because I'm able to physically see, because we can't step outside our own body and see what we're doing. We end up seeing the end result, but we don't always get to see how we're physically doing it. Where my hand there, that's at a better length, because I do love to make sure I'm stepping back that 2 meters to 4 meters or 2 yards to 4 yards. This is about a 10 by 12, so it's not a big board, so we don't have to go back too far. Okay, so I'm starting to get that distant, the upper part of the mountain, and that's lovely to see that mid-distance laid in as well, because it's quite easy to actually overdo the background especially, and with it being the furthest shape away, we really need to still simplify, and I think that's the trick. And I think the one great thing I think that Bob Ross would get into his paintings was marvellous depth and distance. So I think that's the one takeaway that I was inspired, the true takeaway that I was inspired with Bob Ross's work, was to see if I could get that depth and distance. And I feel as though I've got it to a degree. And I think one of the other tricks is not to make your values too dark in your most distant shape, because we're needing to lighten, but also soften edges, and that's how we create the depth. As we come forward, we will go even warmer and brighter, and that's how we create the true depth, is by going darker, lighter, brighter, and sharper edged. I actually found this foreground to be actually the hardest part of the whole painting, because it was kind of a little nondescript, and I almost expected for myself to, you know what, just get it in as well as I can, and then I can always rework it. I was never good at reworking in my younger years, mainly because I felt that I had pushed the idea, I had exhausted all of my ideas on that painting day. But it's amazing, by the time you let it dry, put it out of sight, even have it upside down or even side on sometimes, you'll start to see, oh, you know what? It doesn't step back as much. I may have got the shadows too dark in the background. And that is definitely something that I well and truly used to do way too often. Because in my early career, I really admired and loved Arthur Streeton's work, and he was really the master at the depth, the distance, working with the atmosphere. And I kind of let myself get a little sucked into thinking, oh, you know what, I think the world needs another vista painter, another painter that's going to paint as far as the eye can see. And it actually didn't suit my eye, or my technique, I should say, as well. And now I've actually managed to come back around, figure out what I was doing wrong. And it was as simple as just going way too dark in my shadows. So the background was leapfrogging, wanting to come forward from the mid-distance, and sometimes even the foreground as well. So it's funny, it was a problem that took me probably 15 years to truly solve. But personally, I think that's the long-term growth is to solve some of your weaknesses, solve some of the problems. And I think with my vistas, I think I definitely managed to get that. Not that I think I'll ever be as good as Sir Arthur, but with this type of vista. And actually the funny thing was, the flip side was, I actually probably was good at the mid-distance stuff, but now I love painting the close-in stuff more, sort of something that's 30 to 50 meters or yards away. So I've almost come full circle. Instead of wanting to paint the big distant vistas, I'm now painting much closer in. But now I'm, as they say, we go forward in life, but we learn in reverse. So I'm now almost learning in reverse what I did poorly or one of my weak points from those early days. But try not to be too impatient with your painting progress. I think that's one of the things that we want to be determined and disciplined and have the desire to get better, but don't try and allow yourself to get too desperate, because sometimes it's like getting to our holiday destination and you've still got 100 and 200 miles still to go. Enjoy that process. Enjoy the small victories. Because sometimes they do take a while to fully see themselves through. So just putting some of those final touches in. And this is where I'll bring in the little number 3. And it sometimes doesn't hurt to even hit some of those paint with the palette knife as well. There's many different ways to finish a painting. Well, that painting went a lot better than I expected. I think the thing that I enjoyed the most is it was such a unique subject for me. We don't have too many of that type of mountain, that height, sort of up to probably 10,000 feet. So I think that was exciting just as a subject. Probably my one big takeaway and tip would be is just be careful not to follow the contours and try to get too many of those sort of escarpments. Keep it to those big shapes first and then value add, so that we don't overwork the mountain, especially the peak area, because that is the furthest away. We still want to keep it in the distance, but still interesting. So, hope you enjoyed it. All the best.